Guys, welcome back to the Drone Camps channel. I'm Justin Davis, and today I'm here to give you my experience with a brand new ready-to-fly drone that just came out. This is hglrc's Petrel 85 ready-to-fly FPV bundle. Comes with everything inside this box that you want to learn how to fly FPV. It is dedicated to beginners, people that are interested to get into FPV. So if that's what you're looking for when you're watching this video, great idea to start with something like this. We're going to talk about why in this video that it is a good size to start with. Also kind of something to grow with as you get familiar with flying FPV for the first time. And we'll talk about what's included inside the box, and I'll do a full flight test for you. One battery we're going to do today is going to be just a simple beginner flight battery, and then the next flight we'll do will be more of a FPV Freestyle flight. So if you're interested in learning how to do FPV Freestyle, it would be a great little quad, mainly because it's around the 85mm size. I've talked about this on my channel years ago, how I really enjoy 2S battery because it gives you a little more power than, say, a 1S tiny whoop, mostly for kind of FPV racing inside, indoors, those types of flights. When you move up to a 2S battery on a whoop, what's great about it is that it gives you the extra bit of power. It's kind of like the difference between driving, say, a regular regular sports car and then driving something like a Lambo, like a supercar. So there is a difference between 1S and 2S batteries, and it's kind of amazing when you feel that difference, that extra bit of power when you want it. So it's a pretty neat bundle. It's around $280 and under $300 price point for everything you need to fly. It's a pretty decent deal in the hobby right now. So there's not a lot of ready to flies out there right now that are kind of so current. So it's nice to see a brand new one come out. And if you enjoy the RC hobby, RC helicopters, RC planes, or FPV drones, be sure to subscribe on the channel and click the like button as well, because you know the algorithms on YouTube are suppressing FPV videos right now. So do us a favor and click subscribe and like this video. Click the notification bell for when the new reviews come out, because we get all the newest stuff here on the channel. It's pretty awesome. So let's go outside and let's have some fun today. No politics, just pure hobby fun today. So let's go ahead outside and do some FPV flying. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome outside for the flight test. I'm gonna go ahead and plug everything in here. First thing you wanna do is press once and press again to turn on the radio. Then you're gonna plug in your battery. There's a couple rubber bands inside the kit that will kind of hold this battery to the bottom of this little tiny whoop. So we'll go ahead and plug in the XT30. And remember, this first one, we're gonna fly kind of beginner mode. We're just gonna fly in stability. And I'm gonna record on my goggles. Make sure that's recording so you guys can see the drone playback. And we'll see what kind of flight time we get out of this. Also, by the way, I'm not using the stock goggles that came in the bundle because I'm nearsighted and I can't see with those goggles. So depending on what your eyesight's like, you should probably try some box goggles before you buy a ready-to-fly kit. Because if you get the box goggles and you can't see, the screen's too close to your face. In my case, I just can't see very well. So guys that need diopters, the binocular style goggles are going to be a better choice for you. Especially if you're buying your first pair of goggles. But the ones that come with the kit may get you through. But if you can't see, it's not going to work at all. So keep that in mind. So we're going to go ahead now. I'm recording. And this is my maiden flight. And you guys are coming with me. So right now, I'm seeing there's a lot of speed. And I really had to back off the throttle. And my left thumb is controlling pitch, my forward speed, so I had to really, or my right thumb is controlling pitch, sorry. So I really had to back off my right thumb. See, when I back off the right thumb, see how it kind of levels out, and it'll slow down my speed. So the thing about this is that it also has kind of a fixed camera pitch, but the camera has such a wide field of view that it's, you know, it's not really something you're going to need to adjust. And right now it's 100 degrees outside, so I'm getting that like core overheating message, but hopefully we can just keep flying. One thing about the VTX on this is that it's 400 milliwatt. So what does that mean to somebody that's brand new? Usually these little tiny whoops have 25 milliwatt. So if I go way in the back of the yard back here, it has a better transmission rate through like trees and things like that. The penetration is awesome. So I'm talking about signal penetration. That's really important for drone flying. Like for example, I can fly behind the shed over here. Let's put the quad VTX camera system between, you know, I'm able to completely fly behind the shed right there. That's really good for tiny whoops. Normally you see a ton of breakup right here. We have all of that, you know, something like the shed in the way. So I'm getting used to the speed of it now, and I have to say it's faster than most beginner FPV drone setup. So if you get this one, I suggest like going out into a big field somewhere. If you have a backyard about the size of this one, it's likely that you're going to hit things to start out, just to be honest. You're going to hit things, and that's where the prop guards come into play. You're likely going to break something at some point. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in this video experience. But let's fly up high. And right now we're just flying in that stability mode, the beginner mode. This is just the mode you can start out with. Right now I've got, you know, the top of the house in between me and the drone, and that's where, you know, I could have fail-safed, but that's where hglrc systems like really come into play. And for this little tiny like beginner radio, that's pretty good that I didn't fail-safe on top of the roof, meaning lose signal. And I really want to just start ripping right now. So I'm going to go a little bit faster now for you guys. I'd say the camera's all right. It's not like the greatest thing in the world, but I have to say that the VTX, the video transmission's doing a great job. There's some lines here, but that's also due to like when it's hot, you'll get more interference looking lines in the video when it's kind of hot out. I'm just giving it a little more throttle, and I'm still flying in stability mode, you guys. Just kind of finding lines around my backyard, and that's what you'll do when you start to get a little more experience with flying. You'll find these things that we call lines. So lines are really fun because line is essentially seeing what's ahead of you and following that invisible path through the air. And that's what we call like a line. It's also knowing what's ahead before you get there. So like in this backyard, I'm very familiar with it, kind of know where things are. And you know, the same thing in your backyard. You'll learn lines. It's super fun. Right here is kind of a tough line right through there. It's a hard turn. We go under the trampoline. Almost hit the fence. But you can change direction at any given time pretty quickly with this quad. So you can slow down, find gaps, change direction. You know, you can work on split S and power loops. This quad I think will freestyle really well. And this is getting close to that, like what I call the micro brushless sweet spot. For people that don't know what a micro brushless is, it's just a smaller FPV drone like this size and this scale. It's what we call micro brushless. Brushless is referring to the motors that we're using. But pretty cool. It's fun. It's quicker than most beginner ready-to-fly drones, ready-to-fly bundles for FPV. It's not running DJI. It is an analog video system. But man, you can really have fun with this. So I've got a low battery warning. Super hot outside. I'm not expecting high performance out of this battery, but there we go. That is the end of this battery. So I think we should go out now and do some FPV Freestyle. This little Petrel 85. It's definitely gonna rip. All right, guys, it's time to fly the FPV Freestyle segment of this video. So I am recording on the goggles. I'm gonna go ahead and arm, and now we're gonna fly in horizon mode to start. So if you're just kind of learning to freestyle, I would recommend starting out in horizon mode. That left switch is your mode switch, so you can flip it and it'll switch you back to kind of standard angle mode, just like this. And then right in the middle, this is horizon mode. So it'll give us a little more tilt. It'll let me like flip and roll, but it'll help me come back to stable. So you can kind of see how it levels me out. Now if I flip the left switch all the way toward me, now we're in pure acro mode, also known in the RC world as like manual mode. So now I have no stability. When I do a flip and a roll now, see, it's not going to bring me back to level. So right now, I'm providing all of the stability to the drone. But we can play around, we can explore out here. We can do freestyle maneuvers, we can look for gaps. Let's do a little split S here. Kind of hit that tree branch. You can power over top of trees like this, do little kind of power loops and things. Power loop is when you go over an object and back under it, kind of in one big loop. It's a really awesome thing to learn. So there's a little bit of break up here. Let's do a yaw snap. That's pretty nice. Flying low to the ground is like one of the funnest things. Most FPV hobbyists don't fly usually higher than the tree line. So like, we're not the guys that are flying above 400 feet typically. If a real airplane's flying around here in this area, they're crashing. So I like to keep it low. You can see all of your battery telemetry on the screen here, my fly minutes, my temperature currently, and the faster the drone is moving, you know, the cooler everything's gonna be. But if you're flying slower, things can get hotter quicker. Or if it's just sitting there, you can actually burn up your video transmitter on the drone. So once you plug in your battery, like just get off the park bench or wherever you're launching your launch pad real super quick. So let's talk about the tune on here. The tune, I don't see a lot of shudder or kind of vibrations in the big maneuvers. Like I'll do something around the tree right here. Right there, totally smooth. And you can lower the camera angle. I was wrong about that. I said it was a fixed camera angle. It's not. You can put the camera angle completely horizontal and fly much slower. When I did the beginner review part for the flying part, I had the camera full tilt. So if it's all the way up as far as it'll go, you're gonna fly faster. So you'll have to back off the stick and the throttle a little bit. But right now, again, I have the camera full tilt, and this is about as slow as I can get going. I'm just barely giving it throttle right here. You can see my throttle level in the bottom right of the screen, right where it says LQ, right above that, it says 22, 27 right there. That is my throttle right now. So I'm at a forward cruise on this little quad, 25, 26% throttle. That's pretty efficient to just be able to move forward. Typically, it's like 35 to 40% throttle to keep the quad in the air. So we're getting down to the bottom voltage of this battery right now. I'm gonna flip into stability mode, and I'm at like 7.1 volt right there on the bottom left of the screen. You can see my battery voltage. And the other voltage right above that one is the cell, per cell average voltage. So that's kind of nice to know. If you have a really low per average, that's not good. So right now, I'm getting to that area, and it's best to land when you're getting really low in your battery, because you can damage these batteries and they'll start to swell. So look out for a swelling battery. So yes, it can freestyle. You can do beginner, easy flying, slow flying, inside the house flying, Just bring that camera all the way down to horizontal, and you'll be able to fly indoors with it. But this quad flies the best outside. That's where it's the funnest to fly. So let's go back to the studio now. Let's take a little closer look at this little guy, and I will give you my opinion, and I'll show you all the things that come with this one. Here we go. Okay guys, welcome back from the flight test. We did a beginner flight test and a more advanced freestyle flight test with it. We flew all the different flight modes, and I'm gonna give you a tip right now that may help you. If you bought this one and you're watching this video and you're wondering, oh my God, the drone is not paired up with the remote, this is how you're gonna know that it is or it isn't. On the screen inside your goggles, it will say flip mode or crash mode enabled or whatever. And that's essentially what we call turtle mode. And that thinks that it's upside down, but it's not. But what it is it's not connected to your radio. So this is how you bind up your drone to this particular radio. And it's very simple. Just grab our battery, plug in the XT30 here, and it'll automatically go into bind mode. So now you're going to take your radio and go ahead and press the power button, as well as on the back of the radio right here, it says bind. Hold this button down while holding on the power button, and you'll see it start to flash. As you turn it on, let go. And when it stops flashing, it should be bound up. The way to check it is you can kind of momentarily press this as the arm switch, and then press it again. You'll see that your propellers move. So let me show you the switches on this radio and the way they're set up. This is the arm switch, which is the R switch. This momentarily presses it, arms the motors, as you can see, and then disarms them. This is going to be the mode switch. So right here you have beginner mode, which is stability mode, or otherwise known as angle mode. Then we have horizon mode. It's that mode that I talked about that lets you flip and roll, but also helps you level again after the flip and roll. And we have full acro, which is no stabilization there on the third position of that switch. So it's a 3-position switch there. When you start at the radio, make sure that you have all these switches facing away from you, just like this, so that you're starting in beginner mode. Over on the right-hand side here, this is the crash flip switch, which will turn this on. If you're upside down, you can do what we call turtle mode. And then on the back right here, this is that momentary press button again, and this is going to be your beeper switch. So if you press that, you'll hear that the quad has a beep. So if you lose it in the grass, you should be able to hear that from about 10 feet away and find your drone. And this radio is hglrc. It has full-size 18650 batteries, which is really great for charging from the USB-C port right there, or FPV simulators. You can take this off, and then you have a micro bay module. So if you wanted to use something like TBS Crossfire Micro, you could plug that into that there, because they use the CRSF protocol, which is hglrc protocol, as well as TBS Crossfire protocol native. So that's pretty cool that you have the best of both worlds right there. So now that you know about the radio, we're going to talk about the charger that comes along with it. This is a Toolkit RC 2 to 3S charger right here, and it does a few different types of batteries. It does a LiPo, that is the green light lit up for LiPo, and LIHV. These particular batteries are LIHV, so I could press on the mode button and switch it to LIHV. Long press it, it should change. If not, we're going to short press it and see if that does it. That does it. And it also does LiPo storage as well. So if you wanted to discharge this battery down to a safe storage level, you can do that. Press it again, go back to LiPo and LAHV, and you can see HV on this battery right here. That means it's an HV battery. So I'm going to plug in the balance port right here, and that's all you need to do for it to start charging. So right now you see red, and you're just going to wait until this turns green, and your battery is going to be charged. It should take just under 20 minutes for one of these 2S 720 milliamp batteries to charge up. When it's done, just disconnect it from the charger, and you're good to go. So I love the simplicity of this charger. It's great for beginners because all you really have to do is plug in the balance lead. You don't have to use the XT30 connector to do any of that. You don't have to program the charger to a certain power output. So that's kind of cool. Now, one tip that I want to give for beginners, if you're brand new to FPV, never leave these unattended while charging. Don't charge this and go to the store. Don't charge it and take a shower. Always have your LiPos in the same room with you or nearby. I mean, I had instances where people walked across the house and had a fire. So charge it somewhere that it's going to be fire safe. You can also build battery bunkers as well as charge inside like something like an ammo tin. A lot of people are going to like military surplus stores and buying some ammo tins, or you can get them at Cabela's for about $15. And the goggles that come along with the Petrel 85 Ready to Fly set, they're not the greatest goggles in the world. They are kind of small. They have a small screen. They have miniature antennas. So in my opinion, this is great to maybe start out with if you can see great and you have 20/20 vision. Otherwise, I would stick to a pair of something like a pair of binocular style goggles. And what I mean by that is the goggles that have two screens on them like this. They have a much higher IPD range and focal point range. So if you do need glasses or diopters, inserts are available and you can buy them. These are pretty much primarily beginner goggles. We have a search function right here, a power button, and a bands and channels button on that side, but we have no DVR on this pair of goggles. It does have an internal battery, that's great, and it has a USB-C port right here for charging up the internal battery. And I feel like the foam on here is decent, the head strap's okay. Inside here, you don't see anything on the screen yet, but if we press the search button right on the front there, it should cycle through all the bands of the current channels and bands, and eventually you'll see it come up on the screen just like that. And that looks pretty good right inside the goggles. Now I'm just kind of pointing my camera in there so you guys can see, but you've already seen recording, and you're probably wondering, how did I record the video? Well, I recorded the video with my Sky Zone goggles because it does have a built-in DVR, and unfortunately with this pair of goggles, you won't be able to record your first videos. To turn these goggles off, it's pretty simple. I long press here on the power button. That's not the power button, Justin. This one is. Okay, the one furthest back on the left-hand side, and they turn off. Now, one thing I do like about this kit, aside from not the greatest goggles, is this little dongle that comes along with it. Now, this can pair up with your ELRS radio. You plug it into your computer, and now you have it linked up to your computer for wireless FPV simulator flying. So that kind of adds a little different element to this particular setup, and it's pretty cool because it does have a USB-C side and a standard USB port on that side. And it does say on hglrc's website that it supports multiple different simulators like FPV Logic, DCL Liftoff, as well as Trip FPV and Uncrashed, as well as the Drone Racing League's simulator. And there it is, the tiny little Petrel 85mm quad. It is running 5.8 video. It has brushless motors. They are 2-inch props. They are gem fan props, and they are 2015 size if you're looking for that. It does come with this polycarbonate frame, which seems to be pretty durable. It also has a Spectre AIO flight controller on there, and probably my favorite thing about it is that it is running up to 400 milliwatt for the video transmitter, which I think is great reception for tiny whoop. You can go at least a mile out on 400 milliwatt. I mean, some people have been miles out on 25 milliwatt. So it's interesting to see how far we could get out with a 400 milliwatt transmitter. One thing it does have in the back you could upgrade later is it does have sort of a dipole antenna back here, and these are okay, but you can get the right-hand circular polarized antennas that have UFL connectors that can snap onto the flight controller board or directly into the VTX. And just taking a little closer look, you can see that UFL connector right here underneath the canopy. It's a little gold connector right there, and that snaps right down to the flight controller. So the VTX is integrated into the Spectre flight controller, which is kind of cool. It also has an SPI ELRS receiver, which is also built into that same board, and it does have 10 amp ESCs to support the 2S power on here. And for the beginners who don't know quite what they're looking at size-wise, it is very small. It is 48 grams with the ELRS version of receiver, the built-in SPI receiver that's built right into the flight board. The TBS Crossfire version you can get is a little heavier, around 55 grams, but this is my car keys to the Prius next to this quad. It's pretty small. One of the things that sets this one apart from other tiny whoops this size, it's essentially the carbon frame on the bottom of it. A lot of these whoops at this size and smaller, they don't have a lot of carbon components. So it's kind of cool that we have this squared in reinforcement underneath the motors to kind of make it fly through some of those harder power loops and freestyle transitions that you're going to be doing with this quad. It also adds to the durability and the overall strength of the quad. Now, as far as the power system on here, this is kind of cool, and this has been an issue in the FPV community recently. Recently, BL Heli 32 is no longer available for ESC makers and folks that have FPV quads and drones. This is a problem. So it's nice to see that this particular one has BlueJ firmware on there, and that means that you can update these as you go along. It is future proof, so the ESC on the board can be updated later if you should run into a problem, or you just want to have new features on your quad or kind of a smoother flying quad. And in my experience for the last couple years, using BlueJ on the smaller quads, that's primarily what BlueJ is for, is performing really well. So it performs great, it's nice, and it works great with these Spectre motors. These are the 1202.5 11,000 kV brushless motors. And it's interesting that they chose the 2015 bi-blade props. They're just a push-on prop. They don't have a real kind of aggressive bit of pitch to them, but they do have kind of a nice chord in the middle, this wide chord in the center, and then a nice tapered tip on the end. It makes this quad so quiet that honestly, I don't have any problems flying this around the neighborhood, and no one comes walking out of the yard asking me what I'm doing, which is also kind of nice. So if you live in an area where there's a lot of people, these are nicer to fly than the big 5-inch quads. Now, it's also nice to see the hglrc upgraded the battery, because originally they had spec'd out a 550 battery for this particular quad. And now inside this ready to fly kit, they give you the 720 milliamp battery on 2S. That's going to give you like 6 to 7 minutes flight time with this quad, which I think is much better than the 550 size battery. If you want more maneuverability, I would say use the lighter battery, the 550, but then you're going to get a little bit less flight time. So I will perform better with the lighter battery, but I really don't see a big difference between the two, honestly. You're just going to get a longer flight time with the 720. That's definitely the one to use with this quad, in my opinion. Now, what's also kind of nice is that everything fits inside the box right here. So it does have Velcro for putting in the drone right here, just goes over top just like that. You have this little pouch right here with a zipper, and all of your accessories, prop remover tool, extra props, your dongle, that can all go inside here. You have extra cables for charging up your goggles, as well as connecting to the computer if you want, and charging your radio battery. The radio fits in on this side right here underneath this, straps down here, and your goggles can fit just above the radio. You have to take these two antennas off right here and put them in your sort of velvet bag over here. And once you zip that up, everything is not going to fall out of there. And then this strap comes up, and it is kind of, you can tighten it up as well. Fits down in there like that, and then we can tighten it up. And now everything is pretty secure in there. I got one more bag of extra rubber bands for the battery, and I also have a 90-degree USB-C to USB micro, which is kind of cool. So there's an adapter between those two cables right there for people who need that, as well as some service cards. Those just go inside there. Now I can zip this up, and it's ready to put in the car and go fly. And one other thing that they gave me inside the box you guys need to see is the neck strap. So I got a pretty nice thick and long adjustable neck strap for the radio. Highly recommend using these, because I have broke radios in the past where I was flying and I just dropped my radio, broke my switches. It does happen all the time. So there you have it, guys, the Petrel 85 ready to fly bundle from hglrc. Hopefully you learned something today and you took a break from all the drama that's out there right now in the FPV community. It's kind of crazy. If you're brand new to FPV and you're just getting into it, what a time to get into it. It's going to be super exciting, and there's going to be a lot of new regulations coming down the pipe, but if you just go ahead and get the things you're gonna get before they get banned, you'll have them. Kind of like stockpiling ammunition. There's gonna be a shortage of all these things coming up in the next couple of years. So just be ready for that. Get your toy collection ready before they just decide to blanket ban everything. But for now, we're still allowed to fly in the United States until the legislators get all crazy with us. But the point of today's video was to get more beginners into FPV, And that's why I always try to come at the beginner level and sort of speak in people speak instead of just trying to be too technical in some of the videos, because that's hard for people to digest, especially if you're brand new getting into our hobby. It is quite complicated if you want it to be. But some people out there, just great pilots. They're not great technicians. Some people are great technicians and great pilots. So everybody is their own person in this hobby. And today, honestly, it was just fun to fall back from all the drama and do something fun for beginners. And that's what this channel is all about. It's helping foster new people into our hobby, because it really is a lot of fun and it's therapeutic. Like we always say on the channel, it's very therapeutic to fly an FPV drone. It's not all about warfare and nefarious things. It's actually about going out and just feeling like a bird flying through the trees. That's the best feeling in the world to me. So if you enjoy FPV and RC and drones and things like that, be sure to subscribe on the channel, and I will keep you updated with all the newest and latest and greatest stuff as it's available here in our US market. So all hobby all the time right here. Guys, take care. Please do subscribe, click the like button, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.